The impossible advance of General George S. Patton. August 1, 1944, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Versailles, France. General Dwight D. Eisenhower stands over a massive oak table, maps spread across its surface. Blue pins mark Allied positions, red pins mark German defenses. The gap between them is frustratingly small. 2 months of fighting, 2 months of blood, 2 months of grinding through Norman hedgerows, and the front line has barely moved. Eisenhower traces his finger along the Normandy coastline. His senior commanders surround him, British, American, Canadian, all starring at the same problem, all arriving at the same frustrating conclusion. The breakout isn't happening fast enough. Gentlemen, Eisenhower says quietly, we're stuck. No one argues, the numbers speak for themselves. Progress measured in yards, casualties measured in thousands, the German defenders fighting with desperate brilliance. We need something decisive, Eisenhower continues, something that gets us out of this bottleneck and into open country. General Omar Bradley steps forward, points to a section of the map near St. Lo. Operation Cobra, sir. We concentrate our bombers here, blow a hole in the German lines, then push through with armor. How long to exploit the breakthrough? If we're lucky, a week to advance 50 miles. Eisenhower nods slowly. It's not fast, but it's progress, it's something. Then a British liaison officer enters the room, face flushed, message in hand. Sir, urgent communication from 3rd Army. Eisenhower looks up. 3rd Army, Patton's army, newly activated, supposed to move through whatever gap 1st Army creates. What does Patton want now? Eisenhower asks. Already tired, already bracing himself. The officer hands him the message. Eisenhower reads it once, reads it again. His expression shifts. Concentration becomes confusion. Confusion becomes disbelief. He can't be serious. Sir. Eisenhower reads aloud, slowly, as if testing whether the words make sense. 3rd Army advancing south toward Brittany, will secure Peninsula within 4 days, then pivoting east toward Paris. Request permission to continue advance as far as fuel supplies allow. Bradley's jaw drops. 4 days, the Brittany Peninsula is over 100 miles of contested territory. I know how far it is. Sir, that's impossible. No army can move that fast, the logistics alone. Eisenhower holds up a hand, reaches for the telephone. Get me 3rd Army headquarters. I need to speak with General Patton, immediately. 2 minutes of silence, then a voice crackles through, sharp, impatient, unmistakably Patton. This is Patton. George, I'm looking at your proposed movement plan. You're planning to advance 100 miles in 4 days. That's correct. Through enemy territory. Also correct. With limited fuel against German resistance. Sir, it's entirely possible. George. Patton interrupts, his voice electric with urgency. The Germans are in chaos, sir. Their lines are collapsing. If we move fast, I mean truly fast, we can be in Brittany before they even realize we've broken through. But only if we move now, right now. Even if you could move that fast, what about supplies? What about fuel? The supply lines will catch up. Give me permission to advance. I'll worry about logistics later. Eisenhower closes his eyes. Every principle of military doctrine says you don't do this. You don't outrun your supply lines. You don't advance faster than your logistics can support. You consolidate, then you advance, methodically, carefully. But Patton has never followed doctrine. All right, George, you have permission to advance. Thank you, sir. But if you run out of fuel and get stuck, I won't. The line goes dead. Bradley stares at Eisenhower. Sir, he's going to overextend. He's going to run out of fuel and leave his army stranded deep in enemy territory. Eisenhower stares at the map, at the tiny pins representing 3rd Army, at the vast expanse of France beyond. Maybe, he says quietly, or maybe he'll do something no one thought possible. Section 1, The Breakout. July 25th, 31st, 1944, Normandy, France. Operation Cobra begins with thunder. 3,000 Allied aircraft drop their payloads on a narrow strip of German defenses near St. Lo. The ground shakes. The sky turns black with smoke. When the bombing stops, a hole exists where German defensive lines used to be. American forces pour through. First Army advances, tanks, infantry, artillery, moving forward mile by mile. Then Third Army activates. George S. Patton takes command, and everything changes. Where other commanders consolidate, Patton attacks. Where other commanders pause to organize supply lines, Patton surges forward. Where other commanders wait for flanking units to catch up, Patton leaves them behind. Keep moving, he orders his division commanders. Don't stop for anything. His instructions are simple, brutal, effective. If you run out of fuel, siphon it from captured German vehicles. If you run out of ammunition, use captured German ammunition. If you encounter resistance, go around it. Just keep moving. His tank commanders are stunned by the pace. 20 miles the first day, 30 miles the second, 40 miles the third. German forces, already reeling from Operation Cobra, can't respond. By the time they identify where Third Army is, Patton has already moved past that position. Where is Patton? The question echoes through German headquarters, again and again. Nobody knows. Because Patton is moving too fast to track. Section 2, the race to Avranches. July 31st, 1944, Avranches, France. Avranches, a small Norman town, a critical crossroads, the gateway to Brittany. German commanders understand its importance. If they can hold Avranches, they can bottle up the American advance. They rush reinforcements toward the town. They're too late. Third Army tanks reach Avranches before German reinforcements arrive. The town falls within hours. Brittany's open, Patton tells his staff. We're going through. Sir, shouldn't we consolidate, bring up supplies? No. The word hangs in the air, final, absolute. We consolidate and the Germans get time to organize. We go now, while they're confused. 4th Armored Division races into Brittany. 6th Armored Division follows. Infantry divisions pour through the gap. Within 48 hours, 3 entire divisions are racing across the Brittany Peninsula, advancing so fast that supply trucks can't keep up, advancing so fast that headquarters can't update the maps quickly enough. Back at Supreme Headquarters, officers stare at the situation map in disbelief. This can't be accurate, a British officer says. These position markers must be wrong. Third Army can't possibly be this far forward already. I've confirmed it 3 times, the intelligence officer replies. Patton is exactly where the map shows, and he's still moving. Section 3, the fuel crisis. August 3, 1944, 3rd Army Headquarters, France. Patton's quartermaster appears in the command tent. His face is pale. Sir, we have a problem. What? Fuel, we're running out. How long? At current consumption rates, 36 hours, the supply trucks simply can't keep up with our advance. Patton doesn't hesitate, doesn't pause to consider, doesn't show concern. Then we make fuel last 36 hours. After that, we capture German fuel depots and use their supplies. Sir, that's creative logistics. The Germans have fuel, we'll take it from them. He issues orders immediately. Reduce fuel allocations to non-combat vehicles. Every gallon goes to tanks and fighting vehicles. Everything else walks. Sir, headquarters staff can't walk that far. Then they can damn well learn. Captured German vehicles will be used for supply transport. Fuel will be salvaged from destroyed enemy equipment. Non-essential vehicles will be abandoned. It's logistics by improvisation, logistics by sheer will. It shouldn't work. But it does. Section 4, the message. August 4, 1944, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Versailles, France. An urgent message arrives. A communications officer brings it directly to Eisenhower's conference room. Sir, from 3rd Army. Eisenhower takes the paper, reads it aloud. 4th Armored Division has secured Rents. 6th Armored Division approaching Brest. Infantry divisions controlling all major roads in eastern Brittany. Request further orders. Silence. An aide marks the new positions on the situation map. Eisenhower walks over, coffee cup in hand, He glances at the map casually, then freezes. When was this message sent? 10 minutes ago, sir. Eisenhower stares at the map, at the blue pins representing Third Army, at the impossible distance they've traveled. Good God, he says quietly, he's already there. Sir, we've confirmed the positions. Third Army is exactly where they report. Eisenhower sets down his coffee cup, leans over the map, traces the route Third Army has taken. 100 miles in 4 days. That's impossible, he says, though he's looking at proof that it isn't. Bradley appears beside him, studies the map, shakes his head in disbelief. We expected this to take 2 weeks, minimum. He did it in 4 days. How? Eisenhower asks. How did he move that fast? Nobody has an answer. Later that day, Eisenhower sends a message to Patton. Congratulations on reaching objectives ahead of schedule. Remarkable achievement. However, you are now critically low on fuel. Recommend consolidating positions until supply lines catch up. Patton's response arrives an hour later. Acknowledge fuel shortage. However, German positions in Lorient and Saint-Nazaire still unoccupied. Intend to secure before Germans reinforce. We'll worry about fuel later. Eisenhower reads the message and laughs, a tired, incredulous laugh. He's out of fuel and he wants to keep attacking. Should we order him to stop? Bradley asks. Eisenhower considers, by every rule of military logistics, he should order Patton to halt, consolidate, wait for supplies. But Patton is winning, faster than anyone thought possible. No, Eisenhower says finally, let him keep going, but make sure every available fuel truck is directed to Third Army. Whatever Patton needs, he gets priority. Section 5, the German reaction. August 5, 1944, German 7th Army Headquarters, France. General Paul Hosser stares at intelligence reports. His hands are trembling. Patton's Third Army has advanced over 100 miles in 4 days. Yes, Herr General. That's not possible. No army can move that fast. We've confirmed it through multiple sources. American forces are in Rennes, approaching Brest, controlling Brittany. Hosser sits heavily, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. It's Patton, he says quietly. It has to be. What are your orders? Hosser studies the map. His options are shrinking by the hour. He doesn't have enough forces to defend everywhere, and Patton is moving too fast to predict. Fall back, he says finally. Establish defensive positions further east. We can't stop Patton's advance. We can only try to contain it. It's a tacit admission. Germany has lost the initiative. They're no longer attacking, they're reacting. And reacting to Patton means always being one step behind. Section 6, the pivot. August 6, 10th, 1944, Brittany, France. Having secured most of Brittany, Patton does something unexpected. He pivots. Instead of continuing west to secure the peninsula's ports, he turns his entire army 90 degrees, from west to east, and starts driving toward Paris. Sir, his staff protests, we haven't secured Brest or Lorient. Those are major ports. Ports don't matter if we end the war. Patton jabs his finger at the map, at the heart of France, at the road to Germany. Paris matters, Germany matters, we're going east. In less than 48 hours, Third Army, all 4 corps, over 200,000 men changes direction, pivots 90 degrees while still in motion, and surges eastward. The maneuver is logistically insane. Turning an entire army while it's already moving should cause chaos, traffic jams, supply failures, confusion. Patton's staff makes it work, through sheer determination, through improvisation, through refusing to accept that impossible means impossible. By August 10th, Third Army is racing toward Le Mans, then toward Chartres, then toward the Seine River, then toward the German border. How far can we go? Patton asks his logistics officer. Sir, we're already beyond sustainable supply range. I didn't ask if it's sustainable, I asked how far we can go. The officer hesitates, calculates. If we strip non-essentials, if we capture German supplies, if every single fuel truck runs nonstop, maybe to the German border, maybe. Then that's where we're going. Section 7, Eisenhower's Dilemma. August 12, 1944, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Versailles, France. Eisenhower faces a command crisis. Patton's Third Army is advancing so fast that it's threatening to outrun the entire Allied strategy, the careful plans, the coordinated advances, the synchronized movements. Patton is ignoring all of it. He's almost at the Seine, Bradley reports. If he crosses, he'll be 75 miles ahead of everyone else. His flanks will be completely exposed. What does Patton say? He says a good offense is better than a perfect defense. He wants to keep going. British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery speaks via telephone, his voice tight with frustration. This is madness. Patton is violating every principle of organized warfare. His supply lines are stretched to breaking. One German counterattack and Third Army could be cut off and destroyed. Monty has a point, Bradley admits. Patton's taking enormous risks. Eisenhower stares at the map. Patton is represented by a series of arrows, all pointing east, advancing faster than the cartographers can update. He picks up the phone, calls Third Army headquarters directly. George, you're 60 miles ahead of schedule. You're outrunning your supplies. You're exposed on both flanks. Every rule of warfare says you should stop, consolidate, and wait for the rest of the army to catch up. I know, sir. So why shouldn't I order you to halt? Patton's voice comes through clear, intense, utterly certain. Because the Germans are broken, sir, shattered. If we give them time to recover, they'll rebuild their defenses. We'll be fighting for every mile. But if we keep pushing now, while they're in chaos, we can be in Germany before they recover. We can end this war months earlier. At what cost? If you overextend and get cut off, you could lose your entire army. Risk is part of war, sir. The question is whether we're willing to accept tactical risk for strategic gain. Eisenhower closes his eyes. Patton is right, the opportunity exists, but so does the danger. George, I'm not ordering you to stop, but I'm also not giving you unlimited freedom. You can advance as far as fuel allows, but the moment you can't sustain your position, you halt. Understood? Understood, sir. After hanging up, Bradley asks the obvious question. Did you just give Patton permission to advance as far as he wants? No, Eisenhower says slowly. I gave him permission to advance until he runs out of fuel, which, according to logistics, should happen in about 3 days. And then? Eisenhower looks at the map, at Patton's arrows pointing toward Germany. Then we'll see if Patton can work another miracle. Section 8, the Seine crossing. August 19, 1944, the Seine River, France. Third Army reaches the Seine, weeks ahead of schedule. German forces are frantically attempting to establish defenses on the far bank. Engineers are preparing demolitions. Infantry is digging in. Artillery is zeroing positions. Patton doesn't give them time. His engineers improvise crossings from captured materials. His tanks ford at shallow points. His infantry uses captured German boats. Within 36 hours, major elements of Third Army are across the Seine. At German headquarters, a commander receives the report. His face goes pale. Impossible, Patton can't be across the Seine already. We just confirmed he was 50 miles away. That was yesterday, Herr General. He moved 50 miles in 1 day. Apparently so. The commander stares at the map, at the blue arrows that seem to move faster than he can process. How do you fight an enemy who moves faster than your intelligence can track? Nobody has an answer. At Supreme Headquarters, Eisenhower receives confirmation that Third Army has crossed the Seine. He calls his staff together. Gentlemen, Third Army crossed the Seine on August 19th. Our original timeline predicted they'd reach the Seine by mid-September. He pauses, lets the number sink in. Patton is 4 weeks ahead of schedule. The room is silent. 4 weeks, Eisenhower repeats. That means we're 4 weeks closer to ending this war. That means thousands of lives saved, cities not destroyed, months of suffering avoided. He looks at the map, at the arrows representing Third Army, now pointing toward Germany. I didn't think it was possible, he admits, but George proved me wrong. Section 9, running on fumes. August 25, 1944, Eastern France. Third Army grinds to a halt. Not from German resistance, not from tactical setbacks, not from enemy action. From lack of fuel. Patton's worst fear has been realized. His tanks are literally running dry. Entire divisions stop advancing simply because there's no gasoline. "Sir, we're completely out," his quartermaster reports. "No fuel reserves, nothing. We're stationary until supply trucks arrive." How long? Maybe 3 days, maybe a week. Depends on allocation priorities. A week. Patton's voice rises, not with anger at his staff, but with frustration at the situation. "In a week, the Germans will rebuild their defenses. We could be in Germany right now, if we had fuel." He grabs the telephone, calls Eisenhower directly. "Sir, I need fuel, every gallon you can spare. Third Army is sitting on the German border and we can't move." "I know, George, but fuel is limited. Montgomery." "Montgomery is sitting still. I'm 60 miles from the Rhine. Give me the fuel meant for Monty, and I can be across in 3 days. "George." "Sir, we have a chance to end this war in 1944, before winter, before the Germans regroup, but only if we move now." The argument continues for 10 minutes. Finally, Eisenhower makes a decision that historians will debate for decades. "I'm giving priority to Montgomery's operation. I'm sorry, George, but that's my decision." Patton hangs up, sits in silence for a long moment. Then he turns to his staff. "Scrounge every gallon of fuel you can find. Captured German supplies, abandoned vehicles, anything. We're not stopping, not when we're this close." Section 10, The Forced Halt. September 1944, Eastern France. Third Army sits stationary, burning with frustration. Patton's soldiers can literally see German positions in the distance. They're tantalizingly close to the Reich itself, close enough to end the war. But without fuel, they can't move. It's like standing at the finish line and not being allowed to cross, one officer complains. Patton visits his forward units, tries to keep morale up. "We'll get fuel," he promises, "and when we do, we're going all the way to Berlin." But privately, he's devastated. He writes in his diary that night, "We could have ended this war by Christmas. We had the Germans on the run. All we needed was fuel, but instead we stopped, and now they'll have time to rebuild. This delay will cost thousands of lives." History will debate whether Patton was right. Whether giving him fuel priority would have ended the war earlier, whether the risks were acceptable, whether his aggressive strategy would have worked. But one thing is certain. In August 1944, George S. Patton moved Third Army 100 miles in 4 days, crossed France in 3 weeks, reached the German border months ahead of schedule. And when Dwight D. Eisenhower saw how far Patton had gone, he said 5 words that captured both admiration and disbelief. "Good God, he's already there." Section 11, The Historical Verdict. After the war, military historians analyzed Patton's August advance. The numbers are staggering. Distance covered, over 600 miles in 30 days. Enemy prisoners taken, over 100,000. Towns and cities liberated, hundreds. German divisions disrupted or destroyed, dozens. Allied casualties, remarkably low due to speed of advance. Patton's advance across France represents one of the fastest sustained military advances in history, one analysis concludes. He moved faster than Hannibal, faster than Napoleon, faster than anyone in the modern era. Another historian notes, the Germans couldn't defend against Patton because they couldn't predict where he'd be. By the time they identified his position and tried to respond, he'd already moved somewhere else. A third observes, Patton understood something fundamental about mobile warfare. Speed is its own form of protection. A slow-moving army is vulnerable to counterattack, but a fast-moving army gets behind enemy lines before the enemy can react. German generals interviewed after the war confirm this. "Patton was our nightmare," Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt admitted. "We could handle Montgomery. He was predictable, methodical. But Patton, he appeared where he shouldn't be, moved faster than should be possible, attacked when we expected him to defend. Fighting him was like fighting a ghost." General Gunther Blumentritt added, "We knew where Montgomery would be tomorrow. We never knew where Patton would be in an hour." The debate continues today. Could Patton have ended the war in 1944 if he'd received fuel priority? Would his aggressive advance have reached Berlin before winter? Or would he have overextended, been cut off, and suffered a catastrophic defeat? We'll never know for certain. But we know this: in the summer of 1944, George S. Patton did the impossible. He moved faster than any army in history. He liberated more territory in less time than any commander of the war. He proved that audacity, aggression, and sheer force of will could overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. And he terrified his enemies in a way no other Allied general could match. Closing. August 4, 1944, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Versailles, France. Dwight D. Eisenhower stands over a map table, coffee growing cold in his hand, eyes fixed on position markers that shouldn't be where they are. 100 miles in 4 days. Good God, he says quietly, he's already there. 5 words. 5 words that sum up George S. Patton's entire military career. The general who was always ahead of schedule, ahead of expectations, ahead of what anyone thought possible. The man who moved 100 miles in 4 days, who crossed France in 3 weeks, who reached the German border while other armies were still fighting in Normandy. How did he do it? People ask then, people ask now. The answer is complicated: aggressive leadership, brilliant tactics, improvised logistics, sheer audacity, a willingness to take risks that made conventional commanders uncomfortable. But maybe the simplest answer is this: Patton refused to accept that impossible meant impossible. When told an advance couldn't be done that fast, he did it anyway. When told supply lines couldn't support such rapid movement, he found a way. When told to slow down and consolidate, he sped up instead. Good God, he's already there. It wasn't just surprise, it was admiration, frustration, disbelief. It was Eisenhower recognizing that Patton had done something no military planner thought possible, and he'd done it so fast that even his own commanders couldn't keep up. In August 1944, while other armies measured progress in miles per day, Patton measured progress in miles per hour. And he proved that in war, speed isn't just an advantage. Sometimes it's everything. Good God, he's already there. The 5 words that define George S. Patton. The general who was always somewhere he shouldn't be. Doing something he wasn't supposed to be able to do.